Good morning. I'm Ann Schindler, and this is First Coast Connect. Today, the City Council responds to the mayor's budget with millions in proposed cuts to housing and healthcare. We ask the mayor about that and the launch of a new data portal designed to show how Jacksonville compares against similar cities. Later in the program, we ask the Jacksonville Symphony's CEO how he's approaching fundraising at a time of tightened budgets and economic uncertainty. But first, a lot of news to discuss with our monthly guest, Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan, a fire hose of news from City Hall. Welcome,
Yeah.
Mayor Deegan.
So fun. Such a fun time of year.
It is a
Budget.
great
Yes.
time of year. We're also taking your calls and questions, of course. It's Ask the Mayor Day, so you can reach us on air at 904-549-2937, or you can email questions or comments to firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. Well, let's start with the really fun stuff. Last week, you had a visit from Chief Financial Officer Blaise Ngoglia, came to the city, kind of stood on the steps of City Hall and had some messages to deliver. Part of a DOGE audit of the city.
We've been able to do with our finances and provide the services for our citizens. We have an A+ rating from Fitch. We have A ratings from the other rating agencies. And we continue to improve the quality of life for our citizens. We've got cranes in the air. We've got all sorts of wonderful things happening in Jacksonville. And so, as I said to our council, as I've said publicly, I would have absolutely said it to him had he taken the time to meet with me, which he did not. That we are happy for anybody to come in and look at our books. But beyond that, Anne, I would say this to council as well, who is constantly reminding me that the mayor proposes and the council disposes. That a lot of these folks involved with our budgets have been on that finance committee for a very long time and have been part of those decisions for a very long time. So this is a budget that starts with me but ends in a collaborative process that they carve out and take time to make their own as well. So these have been budgets that have been team efforts, which I have been proud to say over the last couple of years, and they'll continue to be that. But budgets are value statements in addition to everything else. And I think that so far we've done a very good job. I would just like to see us stay focused on being Team Jacksonville with all of this, as opposed to making things hyper partisan. And I suspect that the closer we get to the next election time, the harder that will become. But I am very anxious to work with the members of this council who truly want to be Team Jacksonville, and I think the majority of them do. So I'm hopeful.
You talk about carve out, and the City Council has already started making some cuts to your proposed budget. And it all began with this rollback rate for the city's property taxes, a eighth of a mil cut. You, after they passed that first thing at their finance committee meeting, called it performative. And I thought it was interesting because the CFO, when he was here, actually did claim some credit, saying that he liked to think that the pressure from the state was propelling our city council in that direction.
Well, I think he's perfectly right. I think that is exactly what happened. And that's why I said what I said. I mean, it's no coincidence that was passed out of the finance committee while he was here. I got to give him credit. The messaging is just right on point for political talking points. But at the end of the day, what they continue to fail to point out to people, and they can say all they want that this is not going to affect public safety. These are the same folks that have been screaming for a long time that we're on this fiscal cliff and we have to be careful. And so we've done a great job of managing what we have. This mayor, me, I have never proposed to raise taxes in this city. The reason that we have collected more in property taxes is because we are a growing city and the value of our property has increased, which means that we're getting more property taxes. We are not increasing people's taxes, but we are barely covering what we need for public safety with what we have coming in from property taxes right now. And when I say barely, Ann, I mean a handful of dollars. So as we continue to move along in this process, we have brought back the defined pension for our public safety employees, which we absolutely needed and wanted to do.
But will cost
What will cost a lot of money. We've increased their pay, which they richly deserve. But those things, you can't just pretend those things aren't coming. And so unless we want to continue to be and I'm not going to say continue because we've made so much progress, unless we want to go back to the days where we were constantly complaining that our roads weren't paved and our sidewalks weren't fixed and our downtown was dead and all those things, then we don't want to continually have these arguments about um, shaving off dollars that will give the average taxpayer that owns a home a little more than $1 a month in their pocket. That is the average that most taxpayers would get back, a little more than $1 a month. But it would cost us millions in terms of what we take in for police and fire and roads and all those things that people tell us they want. And I think that most citizens don't want to go back to those days. At least that's my hope. And when I go out to my public meetings that I go to all the time, that's what people tell me. We want more services, not less. And certainly they want us to be responsible with their dollars. But I don't think they want us to, because folks are getting pressure uh, from the state to cut a property tax rate that is by far already the lowest in the state for any major city, that would really not save them any money. It's just that you can't call that anything more than performance, honestly.
We're going to have the property tax appraiser, Joyce Morgan, on tomorrow.
Yeah,
One of the claims that the state's been making, and I know you say that this is a function of rising property values and it's not a tax increase, but
that's right.
the tax rolls and the revenue brought in, the state has been saying has increased by about $57 million in Jacksonville. Are those numbers that you contest, or do you think that that's about accurate?
Look, Anne, we grew by 17,000 people last year. We'll do that again this year. This city is growing fast, and some people don't like that. Some people do, and that means we have to provide services for our citizens. So it really comes down to what kind of city do we want to have? Do we want, I mean, let's just look back in history. What happens every single time that we do this for performance reasons? We end up hurting our services. And that's why people always describe Jacksonville as a city with potential, because we always seem to somehow, when we've got this great momentum like we have right now, to find a way to get in our own way. And I would hate to see that happen for political reasons, when I know that we have a lot of folks over there that really want to see the city move and go forward.
Do you think, though, that that's a fairly accurate assessment financially in terms of the dollars that they're saying that the city is bringing in on top of other dollars? And I hear you saying that the city costs more and we've got more people coming in, but do you think that their numbers are correct?
Honestly, I would have to go back and look at what the additional numbers were this year. I know that initially there was a projection that we were going to have a $71 million deficit. We didn't, for a number of reasons. One of those reasons was we got the one-time $40 million payout from JEA. And I want to point out, I heard some discussion about that. What we did with that $40 million is we paid off obligations with it, one-time obligations with that money in my budget. So we took, and that's obligations from previous administrations and ours, but all to pay off things that we had already agreed to in years past, not things that would be ongoing costs, not recurring costs, but one-time costs. So we very responsibly used that money to try to make sure that we didn't have a bunch of money that we owed still sitting there on the books. I think all of what we have done with what we have brought in has been very responsible. I think that's why you see the accolades we've gotten from the rating agencies. And I want to see us continue our forward momentum. And in addition to that, keep our city a low tax environment that is pro-business and creates a good quality of life. I think that's the balance that we have been able to strike. And I would hope that most of this council would want to keep that going, as opposed to succumbing to some sort of pressure from the state or anywhere else.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan, and you're welcome to join our conversation. You can call us at 904-549-2937 or email firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. We've got a call from Ollie in Mandarin. Good morning, Ollie. Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning, Mayor
Hi,
Deegan.
Ollie.
I was just calling to say I'm interested to see if in the future Jacksonville city budget could come to resemble something more like Baltimore's. where they are seeing really incredible decreases in crime. They're seeing increases in public safety without massively increasing the police's budget, which after the recent national attention on the attack on Will McNeil Jr., I think our policing really needs to come under exam more, and I don't think the solution is giving them more money. I think the Jacksonville Community Action Committee's people's budget is something that should be really considered. I think you guys have done great work, and I'm really interested to see if we can take the city in a better direction in the future. Thank you.
Ollie, thanks. And Mayor Deegan, I mean, to a point that Ollie brings up, I haven't necessarily heard your reaction to the William McNeil video that has gotten so much attention in the last few weeks, where he was pulled over and struck
Yeah,
by an
I
officer.
don't know if we talked about that last time I was here. As I said, it's a very disturbing video. And from what I understand, it is under investigation as we speak. I don't know what the resolution of that is at this point, but I am, as you have heard me in the past, as much as something may disturb me, it's not always the whole picture, and I want to wait until the investigation is done. But I will take Ollie's point and say that I have always been a person who has said I am for transparency and accountability, and I think that that's important. I will say that the difference that we have in this city, because the county and the city are consolidated, we have such a large area to cover, and our police force has a lot of area to cover. A lot of Jacksonville's huge, so I do think that we're a little different than is Baltimore in that regard. So I don't think you can necessarily compare the two. And I obviously I would not have put all of the resources into public safety if I didn't feel that was really necessary for our citizens. When I go out to these town hall meetings, Ann, I don't care where I go and what section of town I go. While people may be frustrated with incidents that happen with police, and I'm not saying they don't have every right to be, but there's always the ask, please provide more police officers in our area because people are speeding through our neighborhoods or because of property crime or whatever it is. Now, our violent crime is down, which is fantastic. And I'd love to see that continue to happen. But I don't think the answer is to make sure that we follow any other city in particular in terms of how they're dealing with public safety. I think that what you're seeing is our crime numbers are down, and I'm grateful for that.
I want to steer back just for a minute to the kind of back and forth that you had last week with the council president, because we also had him on last week, and we talked to him a little bit about his relationship with you.
Yeah. What did he say? I didn't get to hear it.
Well, let's take a listen.
Okay.
We have meetings scheduled every other Monday now. So every Monday before the council meeting. So we've met twice now in this council year, and we're going to continue that open dialogue. And
That seems smart.
Yeah.
I made her a promise. I said, hey, if I'm going to go out and do anything stupid that upsets you, I'll be sure to shoot you a text first or let you know. She said, Kevin, I prefer you don't do anything stupid, but that's fair. If you want to give me a heads up, we can agree on that.
So I'm curious if before he issued this email statement last Friday, where he talked about you having kind of elitist tendencies and being chauffeured around by a taxpayer-funded driver.
Yeah.
Did he call or text you first?
He did. He
Okay.
did. He texted me and said, hey, just want to let you know that I sent out a press release in response to being called performative. Just wanted to let you know it's coming. I said, hey, appreciate the heads up. I tell him all the time, and it's true of so many of those guys. I could probably be their moms. I mean, I there's so many of them are young, and I sort of feel protective of them. I want to keep them from doing things that are not smart. And I think, as I've said to a million times to them, I just don't think people want to see us fight. I think they want to see us get stuff done. And I think we've done such a good job of that so far. And I think these folks are under so much pressure from partisan politics, from the state, from whatever perceived power it is that blocks them from whatever their next move may be. And I don't think that's a manufactured thing. I think that really is a pressure that they feel. But I also think that most of them want to do the right thing for the city of Jacksonville. And I think the right thing is for us to be Team Jacksonville, to work together to move this city forward in the ways that we know are helpful. We've been wonderful in terms of what we've been able to do on the riverfront. with the Jaguars in terms of bringing more businesses into Jacksonville. Where we tend to part ways, and some of this is philosophical and some of it is political, but is when it comes to things like providing things that will improve our public health numbers. Our public health numbers are dismal, Ann. They're dismal. We have a real dearth of primary care doctors in this city. And so when we brought in Dr. Joshi and Lynn Sherman to make sure that we could try to improve those, because let's make no mistake about it, if you have an unhealthy population, that affects your economy and it also affects your public safety. So we said, what can we do from our vantage point that won't cost a lot of money, that could start to whittle away at some of these inequities that cause people to be unhealthy? And a great example is that telehealth program that they just cut out of the finance committee. That has saved us literally millions of dollars of ER visits, which really comes back to us, and also help thousands of people get a doctor's appointment that wouldn't get to see a doctor because they're uninsured.
Remind us who that service is and what it provides.
Yeah, it's a service for the uninsured, of which we have many in Jacksonville. And as I reminded the press the other day when they came to talk to me about this, as of early 2027, when the bill goes into effect, when the mechanism from the bill from the federal government goes into effect, we will lose almost 17,000 people from healthcare, either through the trims to Medicaid, or to the trims to the ACA. So between those two things, about 17 million people are going to lose coverage. That's a Congressional Budget Office number. That's not something I'm pulling out of the air. Okay. So in Jacksonville, we're probably looking at 50 or 60,000 people that may lose their health care.
Additional.
So what we're trying to do is let's find a way that we can stem that tide before we get to that point, so that UF Health is not overwhelmed, so that our emergency rooms are not overwhelmed, so that this doesn't have the bigger economic hit on the city of Jacksonville than it's already bound to have. And so this is one of those programs that to me was just a no-brainer. And so I'm hopeful that once the full council gets a look at it, that they'll put that telehealth program back into the budget. But these are the things that get hurt when we, instead of asking one question about, and this is true of the property tax cut too, what will it do to our community? What kind of services will we lose? How will it impact our economic outlook in Jacksonville? None of those questions were asked. It was simply, let's do it. Let's cut that program. Let's cut this program. And I just, that's why I make the statements that I make. I think I have worked really well with this council and they with me. It's these times when I have to remind myself that this is a political job, and that I have to just continue to stay the course and work through it, and not let my ego take over and want to clap back at every thing that is said during what people very often call silly season. It is it's a frustrating place to be sometimes, because you want to answer every statement that comes out that isn't true, and there are so many of them right now. But at the end of the day, I got to stay focused on trying to move the city in the right direction.
Got some calls I want to take. Curtis on the north side. Good morning, Curtis. Go ahead.
Good morning, Ann. Thank you so much. Mayor Deegan, I love your motives and your efforts for what you do.
Thank you, Curtis.
Ladies, you're welcome. It's appalling to me that we voted these people in office to look out and do the right thing for the city and the taxpayers of Jacksonville. And I just find it embarrassing that they choose to play these petty games, and all in the efforts to make this mayor look bad. They think nothing about the consequences of the people whose lives that they are putting in jeopardy, and the social services that are needed in this city, not just in this city, but in our country, in our states. It's just appalling to me. And I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I lean to law. But it's just appalling to me that these guys, or these people in these offices that we voted in there to do the right thing, are playing these petty games. It just makes me so sick to my stomach. Jacksonville is a great city. I love it, but it's nowhere near what it could be, all because of the petty games that they are playing. It's not Republican, it's not Democrat, it's not liberal. green, Tea Party. It's not that. It's people, human beings, lives at stake here. Thank you so much. Keep up the good work, man, Deegan. I'm praying and I'm in your corner, my sister. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Curtis. Well, that was, look, when I go into these town hall meetings, I can't tell you how often I hear things like that. People are not blind to the partisan games that are played. And look, like I said, I understand this is a political job. I understand that we're going to be coming up in a year and a half or so on another election, and people feel like they have to start posturing for that. And I do believe there are people over there that have truly convictions that we should only invest in public safety and trash. That's truly what they believe the role of local government is. Clearly, that is not my belief. My belief is if we are going to have a world-class city, that while we have momentum, we must invest in those things that bring us a great return on investment. And what brings us a great return on investment very largely is investing in our people. And we have to do that.
Got a call from Carnell in downtown. Good morning, Carnell. Go ahead.
How you doing? I have a two-part question. The first part of the question is the housing situation that we're in. In the last 2 years, I want to ask this question: how much of a dent has the city made, possibly, with the housing situation? Mm-hmm. And part two, dealing with the significant investment, dealing with the Northwest Corridor. How much of a dent has the city been able to make in meeting the needs of the Northwest? Because I believe that the Northwest part of town needs to be their own city. And I would like to address that as a question, too.
We hear that sometimes from the beaches. We hear that we have such a big city, and we are a city of a bunch of different neighborhoods with different needs. And I don't disagree with him that the Northwest Quadrant definitely needs more love. And that's one of the reasons that we took the projects in the capital improvement plan, those infrastructure projects, and moved a lot of those ones from that area of town up near the top of what we're accomplishing right now, or trying to accomplish. So I would say we are making progress there. In terms of making housing more affordable for people, we have, I want to say, 5,000 to 6,000 units that are coming into the market this year that we have been able to create an opportunity to give people housing that is more affordable. So that is a dearth of 40,000 that we have, and 5,000 that we've been able to make a dent with. So we have a long way to go there. As you know, Ann, people told us in a recent poll that was the number one issue on their minds right now. And we're not just, I want to make it clear that we're not talking about projects here. We're talking about housing for people that are our workforce, our nurses, our teachers, our police officers, our hospitality workers. Those folks are telling us that they are cost burden, and we know that more than half of our population spends more than 30% of their dollars on housing. So we continue to try to whittle away at those numbers. That's another place in which so far the Finance Committee has told us we're spending too much time.
7 million proposed cuts right now for
Right.
housing initiatives.
Right. And we should be investing, more than that in housing that is more affordable for people. So you tell me what is going to give people more relief? Giving them $1 back from their property taxes every month, or actually creating more housing that they can get into and actually make sense for their budgets? I mean, I think it's just so obvious that this is the better approach. But like I said before, and I want to make this clear, this is always the process at the very beginning, right? That Finance Committee is stacked with people that we're going to take an axe to this budget, and people that have been part of this Finance Committee for years, frankly, and some of the people who tend to be the most political voices on the council. I really hope that once we get to, and I'm not saying everybody, but you know who I'm talking about. I'm hoping once we get to the full council that we can have a more reasoned and nuanced discussion that can be more about Jacksonville and less about partisan politics.
I mean, in terms of partisan politics, there have been some Republicans that have kind of stood up already and made a case for some of the items that are being put on the chopping
Yeah.
block, including Michael Boylan, who
Yes.
said, he chaired this public safety committee, and he made a pretty good case for saying, all of these things, health, housing, economic stability. I mean, those are all elements of public safety that we have determined are elements of public safety. It's not just kind of a nice thing to have.
He's completely right. I mean, these were all when I said that I created a budget, that my team created a budget that we really felt, in addition to being balanced and took no money from reserves, we came out with a budget that we felt was filled with shared priorities that came from that quality of life survey that everybody agreed on. Everybody said this is a way we want to go. These are places we need to improve upon. And so that is I thought Michael made perfect points when it came to that these are all things that we all know are problems that we need to continue to invest in. And frankly, Anne, they are minuscule parts of the budget. I mean, you're looking at a tiny percentage of a $2 billion budget, most of which goes to public safety and infrastructure. These are tiny expenditures compared to the rest of the budget. So it's Michael's right.
I'm just going to read a question that we have from a caller because we won't have time to get to all of our calls. But Cassie is wondering, how are you addressing companies like JWB who are buying up all the properties from individuals and thus driving up housing costs? I mean, they're naming one, property investor there, owner, but there are tons of companies that come in, buy housing, flip it, or sell it, rent it out, and make it in some cases very unaffordable.
Well, I would say in terms of JWB, they've also done a great deal of work on affordable housing. So you have some of these folks that don't do that. And so I would say JWB has been part of the solution there. I don't know if that's a great example in my mind. But I do know that overall, that's something that we have to keep an eye on.
Yeah. And then just in terms of the portal that you unveiled, because we did have
Yeah.
Dr. Parvez Ahmed on last week. And I was curious. I mean, there's a lot of great information there, a lot of metrics that you are looking at, whether it's education or healthcare. The one that isn't there that is almost always on these quality of life, or state of Jacksonville surveys is crime. And I'm curious why that wasn't a metric that was selected. Is it just because that's kind of outside the purview of the mayor's office, or?
Well, it is outside the purview of the mayor's office, but also, as I mentioned before, our crime numbers are down dramatically. I think some of the things that we're dealing with in terms of the mayor's office, and obviously we have Jacksonville Journey, which would address the root causes of crime, which is important. But I think what this does, what this program does, is it provides us real data. It gives our citizens a transparent look at exactly what the state of Jacksonville is, and it provides facts, actual data points that we can work from to say, now we know where we're going. We have a map instead of just sort of flying blind and doing what we think. It is invaluable information that will help us to be a more efficient, more lean, better serving city.
All right. Well, we're going to have to leave it there. Mayor Donna Deegan, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Anne.
All right. Up next, how the Jacksonville Symphony is adapting to new economic and funding realities. Welcome back. At a time when nonprofits and arts organizations are facing major economic headwinds, the Jacksonville Symphony is both a nonprofit and a major arts organization. It's actually the largest arts nonprofit in Northeast Florida. We're joined now by its chief, Stephen Libman, president and CEO of the Jacksonville Symphony. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
It's great to have you back. So there are a lot of groups right now struggling to find a way forward. in a lot of respects, the symphony is really doing quite well. You've had some astonishing gifts from donors in just the last couple of months. A $15 million donation in March, the largest in symphony history. You had a $3 million donation in April from the Terry Family Foundation, and a big one last year from the Haskell
Right.
family, $5 million. So it would seem that you're doing quite well.
Thank you. I think it's a reflection of how this community feels about the Jacksonville Symphony and how important we are to this community. We've been here for 75 years, and I believe, having raised money all over the country, that it's important to establish relevancy, and we maintain that every day. So these funders and many others continue to support us for that reason. And I should add, this community is blessed to have very generous donors who support many nonprofits across the spectrum. We just happen to be very fortunate at this time, but we need the funding because our ticket sales only cover about 35% of our total expenses. So absent the funding, we would not be able to provide the services that we do for the community.
We should say, and the mayor just left, the line item in her budget also quite generous, $500,000 for the symphony. But to your point, there are a lot of people who work for the symphony. It takes a lot of staff to make that happen, all of the performances. And you've got, I think, about 100 full-time staff and 60 musicians?
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
including 60.
Including 60
Yeah.
musicians. So we believe that we are a major driver of economic development downtown. And so we partner with the city and we partner with major development companies to continue to drive patrons downtown. We attract over 100,000 people downtown, and we have 100 full-time employees, 120 part-time employees who work in our offices every day trying to serve this community, and we're very committed. We're not moving our headquarters out of downtown. We're committed to stay there, and all of that takes contributed support, but we're also, as I said, a driver of economic activity. Plus, we have an education program that serves 60,000 students in this community, half of whom are Title I students. So all of that support that we've just talked about goes back into serving this community.
And I know that some of the money that you have received is going to go towards some improvements to the performance space, which
Right.
I'd like to hear a little more
Sure,
about.
absolutely. So we exist within the Center for the Performing Arts, and Jacoby Symphony Hall is a relatively unique space. It's a world-class concert facility. And although the city owns the building overall, we are primarily responsible for the improvements within Jacoby Symphony Hall. So we have raised funds to improve the acoustics, and we're now trying to raise additional funds for new seating and primarily to focus on ADA issues. We think it's really important that our patrons who are disabled have access. So we're going to improve aisle lighting, handrails, and wheelchair access to the hall.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we're talking about some, very generous gifts that you've gotten, but I'm curious, I mean, what are you feeling in this environment right now? Because we know that for arts organizations, certainly in Florida, but around the country, have been feeling the pinch in terms of cutbacks,
Right.
particularly at the state level, and just sort of the economy writ large. There's a lot of uncertainty. Are you facing similar economic headwinds?
Yes and no. We're very much aware of the political environment that we're in nationally and of course locally, and aware of the potential for economic headwinds. I think any organization that today decides now we're going to become relevant or now we're going to start paying attention to our funders have kind of lost the game. I believe it's really important to have deep, meaningful relationships with your funders, and I've done that all over the country, wherever I have worked. And here in Jacksonville, we continue to do that. So while we are aware of the potential for economic headwinds, the donors who are supporting us have been with us for a very long time. And the new funders see that we are making a difference in downtown. I think as the mayor correctly said, this is a world-class city. And we believe that we play a role in attracting companies to this city. And we think we're a part of the continued future of this city.
Are you vulnerable to federal funding cuts?
We receive a very small amount of funding from the National Endowment for the Arts. So fortunately for us, we are not heavily dependent. What happens, though, with national funding is that's your federal government saying that you are important to your region. and we as the federal government are going to support that. And those decisions are made by a panel of experts. They're not made by bureaucrats. I think it's important to note on federal funding, every single county in this country has received National Endowment for the Arts funding. So National Endowment for the Arts funding is bipartisan. It's not red, it's not blue. Every single county is supported. And when that funding goes away, every county is affected.
And so this one particularly large donation that you got was an anonymous donor. I assume it's somebody that you know.
Yes, one would hope.
Okay.
Yes.
I was interested to see that you've actually taught fundraising to graduate students at a number of schools around the
Right.
country. I'm curious if you can kind of tell us a little bit about what your syllabus includes. I mean, how do you teach fundraising?
That's a great question. I have been honored to teach it at many schools, including Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh for a while, and the University of California at San Diego, while I was working full time for organizations. To me, I often say that there are three key words in fundraising, and can you say please and thank you, and can you mean it? And that really is the essence of fundraising. Are you sincerely grateful? Are you sincerely asking for the support? And if you're working for an organization, as I said earlier, that can prove you are relevant and you're impactful and you're creating something transformational for the community, then you can raise money. The other side is we are working with individuals, primarily individuals. There's government support and foundations and corporations, but individuals who truly want to change the world, whether they're giving $10 or $15 million. These people have decided, I want to make the world a better place.
You arrived at the Symphony at sort of an interesting time when it comes to the world of fundraising, whether it's for a nonprofit or an arts organization, or even just kind of holding an organization together, especially one that meets communally and performs that way. You started in February 2020.
Right.
What a weird and strange time to become the CEO of.
Yes. Who knew that the world was going to fall apart 6 weeks later? It was fascinating. We quickly put together a plan. And we worked with all of our major donors, including the prior city administration, to make sure that the Jacksonville Symphony could survive. I said to the board, we must do everything we can to survive and to not go away, because if the Jacksonville Symphony goes under, we'll never come back. We'll come back as a shell of ourselves. And collectively, we were determined to stay together and to raise funds to keep us moving forward. And we were able to do that. We raised a lot of money to keep the Jacksonville Symphony alive, and I'm happy to report, as a lot of people know, when COVID hit, we were able to reopen in September of 2020, and we performed with strict physical distancing. We were the one of only 10 orchestras in North America that were able to open at that time, and that allowed us to maintain our brand in this community.
And you were able to do that safely, but still do it within
That's right.
the hall.
Absolutely safely within our hall. And our patrons said, we'll come back, but please make sure that you have safety guidelines in place. So we always listen to what our patrons have to say. And we just did a survey recently that if I can brag for a second, we've had patrons who have lived all over the country, and they came back to us and they said, you're better than the Los Angeles Philharmonic. You're better than the San Francisco Symphony. They may have more musicians, but your sound is incredible, and you treat your patrons with such great love and reverence.
We've got a call from Jason in San Marco. Good morning, Jason. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning. Yes, I know Stephen. He's one of my friends over at Symphony Hall. And I just want the community to understand what a miracle it is that we have this incredible Symphony Hall and we have this amazing orchestra. But the real point of my call is to say how efficient the Symphony is with the money that they receive and their budgeting. Almost 95% of it, possibly more, is recycled right back into our community. And I think that's one of the things you have to keep in mind. This is an unbelievably efficient organization that does tremendous work for the community. And I want to say thanks to Stephen. He's doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason, for the call. One of the things, I don't know that it's unique in terms of leading an organization like a symphony, but you do have to plan a long way out for performances, because you're working with very, talent in demand, very acclaimed artists, people that probably book up pretty
That's right.
quickly. And so you're having to make decisions about funding years ahead of kind of
That's right.
that budget cycle.
Yeah, we have a 5-year planning cycle, so we're always planning 5 years out, and actually we're beginning to do another 5-year plan as we speak. Given the nature of our business, because we are one of the top orchestras in the country, in order for us to engage some of the guest soloists, the pianists, guest conductors, etc., we have to reach out to those artists years in advance in order to secure them, and that's a good thing. It forces us to plan carefully, and then we can meet with some of our patrons well in advance, whether they be foundations or corporations or individuals, and say, we're thinking of bringing this in 3 years. Would you be interested in helping to support us? And I think they appreciate the fact that we're planning so far out. We actually, my CFO and I, run a 10-year rolling budget projection. Just because we're a nonprofit doesn't mean we don't act in a very strict and fiscally prudent manner.
Yeah. Does some of the money that you receive help make? I know that you said that only 35% of your tickets, your budget is ticket sales, but are you able to work to try to make tickets affordable to people?
Yes.
Symphony typically has a little bit of a reputation, not here
Right.
specifically, but everywhere, as being a little bit
Sure.
highbrow and perhaps not always accessible.
Yeah, I that's a great question. I think sometimes the perception can be, oh, they're elitist. But first of all, we offer something for everyone: classical music, pops, the movies, opera, the organ series, jazz series. Within each of those, we price everything for lower price tickets up to as higher price tickets that people want to pay for, and to wrap around to our students, we also make tickets available, often free, to many of the students who we serve. So this survey that we just completed of our audience came back, and overall our patrons said your ticket prices are very fair for the value. But yes, we absolutely offer tickets to individuals who need a lower price point.
And I don't know if this is your very next event, but I thought it was interesting, this Eyes of the World. It's a
Yes.
kind of World War II performance that it has both the symphony and then some Broadway vocalists.
It does. We're actually partnering with, I believe it is the Florida Forum and the Women's Network.
Yeah, the
for that.
Wolves and Women's.
Well, so we're partnering with them, and that's going to be a fun event. And the Jacksonville Symphony is honored to be playing for that.
That's great. That's in September, I guess.
Yes,
But
September 30th.
we'll probably be talking to you or someone from the symphony again around
hope
that
so.
time. But Stephen Libman, great to talk to you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Up next, Riverside Arts Market celebrates back to school with special weekend programming for kids.
USF Safety Florida, committed to reducing work-related illnesses, injuries, and workers' comp premiums while avoiding OSHA penalties and helping employers profit from safety. More information is available by visiting usfsafetyflorida.com.
WJCT, Elder Source, and Allevia Care present the Caregiver Journey Workshop, a free event Saturday, August 16th. Join us for this day-long mini-conference and brief caregiving documentary screening. Registration at wjct.org/caregiving.
Jack Corbett's best-known role is probably NPR's Planet Money TikTok guy. So when director Julian Glander cast him as the lead for his new movie, Corbett wondered how to play it.
I was considering the craft of acting, but then Julian's like, it's you. It's even more me than I think the Planet Money TikToks are.
I'm Ari Shapiro. Boys Go to Jupiter on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
Starting at 4 on WJCT News 89.9. You've probably heard by now, federal funding for public media has been eliminated, which means decades of support for public radio and television from both political parties is ending. To be clear, NPR and this station aren't going anywhere, but we do need your support. We hope you'll give today to keep rigorous, independent, and irreplaceable news coverage available to everyone free of charge. Here's how to donate, and thank you.
Visit wjct.org/sustain and thank you.
Nearly 43 million Americans have federal student loan debt. The student loan system is getting overhauled under President Trump. We take your questions about changes this year and what they could mean for current and future student loan borrowers. That's next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. Well, the Riverside Arts Market is celebrating the first week of school this weekend with a focus on interactive workshops and youth entrepreneurs. Here to tell us about it is S.J. Osborne, Riverside Arts Market Manager. Good morning, S.J.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for being here. We're also joined by Melanie Malon, owner of the Southern Style Bread Pudding Vending at RAM. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
I'm delighted to have you. We're also joined by Melanie's daughter, Mackenzie, who is going to be a jewelry vendor this weekend at Riverside Arts Market. Good morning, Mackenzie.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here. So, SJ, how will this weekend's market be different from other weekends?
So we know back to school is a big time of year for families. So we really wanted to just have a moment to celebrate some of the stuff that folks as kids have been doing over the summer, projects they may have been working on, art projects, maybe little business ventures that they've been working out.
Yeah.
So we're going to have some of our vendors that have children have their children out for like a mini kids market, bringing things that they've worked on to sell.
That's great because these kids are creative. They're there at the market very often. They kind of know the flow, and sometimes they're even helping their parents kind of do the
100%.
sales. But this is actually putting the focus on their own work.
Exactly. Yeah. You'll have anything from, jewelry making to someone coloring a sheet out of a coloring book, whatever
Yeah.
they're most proud of.
Oh, that's great. And I know, Mackenzie, you've been making some amazing seashell jewelry over the last few months. You're actually wearing a jewelry necklace. Your mother is wearing one of your pieces. Can you tell us how you started making seashell jewelry in the first place?
I was in I just get a piece of yarn and just put them in a hole.
So you look for seashells that have a hole in the tip of them, but sometimes if they don't have a hole, you ask your dad to help out.
Yes.
And what does he do?
So them.
Drill a hole in it? Yeah. And so I know that you are a regular at the market. Melanie, you are the owner of Southern Style Bread Pudding, which is a favorite there. And you focus on, food, but you're
Right.
going to share your little space this weekend with Mackenzie.
Yes, I have the pleasure to have the opportunity to do that with her. So she said she had a dream about making seashell necklaces. So my husband and I are very just supportive into their dreams and what they want to do. So we went to, what do we do, Mackenzie? We went to the beach and then I was figuring out I was looking on seashells on the ground. We were hunting for seashells on the ground. Yep. I was looking at it and I was thinking about it. I was thinking seashell necklaces.
Well, they look great. I mean, they're very beautiful necklaces.
you.
And I know, Mom,
Thank
you've got a
you.
hand in sort of helping out.
Yeah.
I'm curious, though, about your own product because you've been doing this for almost 5 years now at RAM.
Correct.
And you've got bread pudding, but it's not always traditional. I mean, you've got like
Right.
a Fruity Pebbles flavor. You've got a Tennessee Delight that's got some Jack Daniels in it. So
Yeah, that's
the-
which everyone's favorite,
Is it-
especially at the market. But yeah, we have about 15 now new flavors, and I have the majority of the flavors throughout every Saturday at the Ram, and then sometimes I switch it up if we want to try a different flavor throughout like that season or that month of of like if we have a holiday coming up, then we have an extra like the
Don't
special
say it's gonna be the
flavors.
pumpkin spice, right? Yeah,
Yes,
of course.
yes, I'm having that.
And I know you also sell at Dreamette. I mean, how did you get involved in the first place in making those?
Well, so for starters, I had this recipe that I had got brought down to me, and then I just started with one flavor, which is like the classic, and then from there I was just trying different things. My husband and I were he's like, "Why don't you do this one and do that one?" I'm like, "Okay." So from there, then I just started to call the restaurants and ask if they were willing to give it a try to see if it would best fit their dessert menu.
Mhm.
And now I have it at Corky Bell's Seafood in Fleming Island and in the Dreamette in Middleburg.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Congrats. And so this event, we should say, SJ, has got all kinds of other things besides the kid vendors. There's a lot of hands-on learning and
Mhm.
science experiments. Just tell us what else is on offer.
Yeah, so another way to kind of gear up for the school year, we're hoping to have some fun educational activities throughout the market. A lot of our vendors do occasionally have workshops at the market and within the community. So they'll host their own workshops. We have Tough Life is going to have a rug making workshop, and that's going to be really great. She'll have snacks included in the ticket. It's a discounted price for a rug making workshop. You can bring her family's involved. They're going to be little entrepreneurs there. You can bring your kids and make a rug. We also are going to have science experiments and activities for everybody to get hands-on and get a little curious with science, alongside just what we normally have at the market, which is going to be live music, fresh local produce, handmade goods, all the usual stuff you can see.
Yeah, a great place to go and hang out and have some really good food and hear some really good music. It's a great hang.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
way to celebrate back to school. Well, it is so nice to have you here, SJ Osborne, Melanie Malon, and Mackenzie. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you. Thank you so much
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Sure. Nice to meet you.
Nice
All
to
right.
meet you.
And thank you for listening. That's our program. If you had feedback or suggestions, you can send either to First Coast Connect at WJCT.org.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by Baptist Health and the North Florida TPO.
Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com. The North Florida TPO is dedicated to transportation planning, funding, clean fuels, and new technologies for a vibrant, resilient, and connected region. More information available at northfloridatpo.com. The Florida Theater presents The Psychology of Cults, a live event exploring how cults form, why people join, and what it takes to leave. Wednesday, October 8th at 8 p.m. Information at floridatheater.com.